democratic perspectives, news, interviews, and smart thinking for a better, freer America. Today's Democratic Perspectives host, Chris Lunn, and his guest, Nancy Epstein.
Nancy Epstein, could you please give myself and our audience some idea of why exactly being not involved in politics in your past, particularly, although I understand you spent quite a bit of time in court as a court recorder, which I would consider probably had its political shadings. Could you give me us some idea of why you decided to run for county commissioner in Douglas County?
Yes, and thank you, by the way. It's nice to be here with you today, Chris. Thank you
nice
for having me.
Myself.
I decided to run basically because I wasn't pleased with the choices we had from other candidates. And I don't mean to slight anybody by saying that. It's a daunting challenge to run for public office, and it's a difficult challenge. But I thought this election, we needed more than the status quo. This election is not about business as usual and the divisive issue of growth. This issue is about the budget and the economy, and I didn't see anybody addressing that. I saw them making cuts to teen and senior services that I don't think needed to happen. We can find savings elsewhere, and I didn't see anybody advocating to protect those citizens that do need some protection. That's not where we need to look. That's not where we need to cut. So I was motivated to jump in and offer my services, and I thought I had something to offer.
Well, let me ask you, how do you see the budget per se? I mean, obviously you've done a little research in your day here to get your legs under you to be able to talk about it. How do you see improvement? I mean, obviously they're cutting the schools. I mean, there's all kinds of budget cuts going on. And here you are talking about the budget. So give me a little idea on how maybe, or us, how you see what you plan on bringing to the table.
Sure, it's a complicated issue, and we've got some really talented people in the county with some good ideas. I have spent time with T. Michael Brown, our new county manager, has been generous in sharing his time with me, as well as Claudette Springmeyer, who is our comptroller for Douglas County, very bright, very talented, and they have been very generous in sharing their time. We've discussed some ideas, and I have come up with a 3-point short-term plan for the budget to realize some savings that I think is feasible. Now realize the county manager does bring the budget to the county commission, and that's how it's approved. We have approximately $125 million budget for the county. Of that, we only have discretion over about $18 million. Some of that is slaved in. It's mandated. You can't change where those funds go. Road funds can't pay for senior services, so some things are slaved in. I think the first place we need to look, point number one, is some information technology savings, IT savings. We need a 21st century government for Douglas County. We have a very antiquated and old way of doing business in many ways. We have two funded but unfilled positions right now. We can hire one IT person and I think find $180,000 in savings in the first year. Number two, and this is something I have been advised as a political hot potato and we shouldn't talk about it, which is another reason why I ran, because we are beyond those kind of antics, I think. We need to look at everything. Everything is on the table, and we need to be surgical with these cuts. I think a place we need to look for savings to find efficiencies and eliminate redundancies is look at the towns, our 2 town boards, Minden and Gardnerville, and our 22 GIDs, our general improvement districts. And hear me well, everybody's position is safe. We are not eliminating positions. We are not taking someone's fiefdoms. They're in safe, but we're all in the same boat together. We need to pull together. They're looking for money too. How can we combine our forces? We have done that in some ways, but we can continue. We can share vehicles. We can share maintenance. We can share billing. There's efficiencies we can realize and redundancies we can get rid of.
Gee, that almost makes sense right off the top.
Yeah.
Good. That's good.
And number 3 is conservation. And realize that we are not going to step over dollars to pick up dimes, but turning off a computer at night when employees have gone home saves $122 a person.
With the cost of energy these days,
yes.
That just is almost common sense.
Yes, so there are, and also I would add to that we need to be very proactive in protecting our funding when the legislature comes into session in January. We don't need to be reactive and wait for the governor to take a big chunk of the money that we do have. We need to be proactive in protecting the funding that we do have.
Gee, you're well informed. I would almost like to do a drill down on a number of those points, but that's not my job here today. Next question, development. There is a big wind blowing through the county lately on how far it's gone outside the realms of the master plan, and I understand that Park Cattle is even coming up with another 4,000 or 5,000 home expansion. Yes. And considering I've been here about 15 years, and I remember well the flood of '97, and I live up on Johnson Lane, and looking out across the valley, it was like looking at a lake. And I know that where Park is talking about doing that, it's flood zone. I mean, it may not be officially a flood zone, but it was a lake over there.
It was a lake.
So my question is, how do you feel about that sort of thing going on, and particularly Park's project, Park Cattle's project?
I can start by saying I am in support of the master plan and following the master plan. I'm in support of the growth management ordinance that will be on the ballot in November. This is a 2% cumulative cap. We haven't seen how this is going to work in normal economic times. We have come down from the boom and the bust. We're in the bust. So we need to give this a try in normal economic times. I think it's going to work just fine. We do need to build. We do need to grow. And I would like to see us move away from those dividing terms of smart growth, which some people perceive as unfettered market-driven growth, so that we're going to turn into a San Jose, which nobody wants, versus the other side where they want to close the gate behind them. We can't have that either. We have to grow. So I would really like to find the middle ground, build consensus on that, and I think that is with the growth management ordinance. Now take the park project. They offered some incredible things that this community needs, and we talk about the budget and a short-term plan. We also need a long-term plan for what we want to look like in 50 years. What would we like our community to look like?
So is this around things I've read about smart growth, sustainable growth?
Right,
I mean, are they two opposite polarities? I mean, how does that work?
They are at opposite ends, and that's how the community has been divided so far. So you look at a project like Park coming in, and as part of our budget, we want to diversify our business community. We want to attract business. How do we attract business? They come in and say, well, what other businesses do you have? What is the shape of your schools? Are we going to have enough places to live? Are there enough rooftops and businesses to support what you're bringing in? So with Park Cattle Company offering a site for WNC, which is terrific, 9 miles of bike trail, 2 miles of river access, a site for a multi-generational center or a senior center. These are incredible assets to the community. But the overreach on the residential was way too far. The density was too high. They were offering affordable housing. This is another thing that we need in our community.
I know our police and firemen can't even afford to live here.
No, they can't. So that is something that we need and we have to have, but it's an overreach on the density on the residential. So I was surprised that we didn't see the compromise on that to see if it could be a workable project. There wasn't a traffic study. There wasn't an environmental study that I know of. Do we have enough water resources to make this happen? That type of project stubbed out from town can be a good thing. It can be a livable, walkable community. There were good things, but it needs to be negotiated out to see where, if it can happen. It can't happen as presented.
To be a little less excited.
Yes.
I would say they're pretty excited.
Democratic Perspectives is presented by the Democrats of Douglas County, Nevada, promoting sensible government for today and tomorrow.